Chelsea is insane, but how long will this last if Abramovich simply can't stay? As most of you probably know that for the last couple of weeks, the government of the UK has imposed numerous sanctions on the people connected to the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. Now, one of those people connected to him is Roman Abramovich, who has been the owner of Chelsea for the last 19 years. So since he is in some way related to the people in power of Russia, a ton of sanctions have been placed on him and his assets. And one of Abramovich's major assets is of course Chelsea Football Club. So Chelsea now cannot sign any new players, they cannot renovate anything in their stadium, and unless you have a season ticket, you cannot attend a Chelsea game in their stadium. They even cut over 30% of their travel budget, meaning you might see Mason Mount in one of your next commercial flights. These sanctions are doing everything so that anyone connected to the Russian president doesn't have any money that they can give to Putin, which is of course very right. However, it is also very sad to see Chelsea being affected by this so much, and being so heavily mixed up in politics. Basically, the club is in complete shit. But today, I wanted to take a look at the story of Chelsea Football Club all the way from the beginning throughout the years, how Roman Abramovich revolutionized Chelsea, and everything that's happened until this day, while also discussing what might happen next. So without any further ado, wait, just one thing. I usually don't ask for too much, but if you could please just lightly tap that like button, it would really mean the world to me, and it takes like a second, so might as well just help out the channel. Thank you. Let's get into it. If you've only been following Chelsea for about the last 20 years, you probably wouldn't know how much trouble Chelsea had of winning anything and playing good football before Roman. Because before Abramovich took ownership of the club in 2003, Chelsea was not doing too nice, to put it simply. As a matter of fact, Chelsea won 5 out of their 6 league titles under Abramovich's ownership, also winning their only 2 Champions League titles under the Russian billionaire. The point is, ever since the man took ownership of Chelsea, things took a rapid turn for the better. So in order to understand what may happen next, we have to understand what the situation was at Chelsea before his Russian riches came in. There is a very popular quote that I quite like. It's by Edmund Burke, and it goes, "Those who don't know history are destined to repeat it." Now the reason I'm talking about this quote is because since we know how things were at Chelsea before Abramovich, we can slightly predict how things will be in the near future, which unfortunately doesn't look great in my opinion. If we go far back into Chelsea's past, from the early 1950s to 1982, things were going pretty good for the club. They won a league title in 1955 and an FA Cup in 1970. But after this, things weren't going so great until Abramovich. The club was constantly fighting debt, financial issues, and basically avoiding bankruptcy altogether. On top of that, the atmosphere in the club was awful, and there was even a widespread amount of hooliganism among the club's fans. At this point, their on-field performances were definitely not the priority because they desperately needed money. So in the early 1800s, the club's owners had no other choice but to sell the club, and that's exactly what they did. In 1982, Ken Bates bought Chelsea from the Mears family for a shy £1 million. Yes, that's how desperate they were to sell. They valued the entire club for only £1 million. And at this time, Chelsea were struggling so much that they couldn't even own their own stadium, Stamford Bridge. It was actually owned by a different company, so when Bates took ownership of the club, he only bought the club, not the stadium. He also bought the club during a period when Chelsea was losing over £10,000 each and every day from their debt, meaning Bates was not profiting at all. Actually, it was the exact opposite. However, Bates did start a small spiral to turn things around. Bates, along with the club's fans, organized a non-profit organization to support the stadium. This did mean that the stadium was saved. However, the low budget and low esteem that the club had meant the performances on the pitch did not improve even slightly. Chelsea's real beginnings of success only started in 1996. In 1996, Ruud Gullit was appointed as player manager of Chelsea, and this was the first time when they saw a glimpse of their true success. At this time, Chelsea did have a very solid squad with Gianluca Vialli and Gianfranco Zola taking the spotlight. Chelsea was becoming one of the most interesting clubs to watch in the entire Prem at the time. However, unfortunately, their financial troubles didn't let them really show the world what they had. They weren't able to win any Premier League titles during this time. However, they did win 2 FA Cups, one in 1997 and another in year 2000. However, that was the main turning point where Abramovich was desperately needed. You see, after the manager spent over £25 million on players during the summer of 2000, Chelsea came out and lost 4 of their 5 opening matches of the season, which led to a managerial change to Claudio Ranieri. Now, although Ranieri strengthened Chelsea by quite a lot, Chelsea were still unable to perform well when it was really needed. On top of this, they had £80 million of debt, and Bates said that he couldn't handle the financial issues, so he sold the club. And this is where Abramovich comes in. As soon as Roman bought the club, he didn't hesitate for a second. He very quickly paid over half of the club's debt and went on to spend £100 million on new signings. And in the first season of Abramovich being in charge, Chelsea landed second in the Premier League and even reached the UCL semi-finals. Now, that isn't anything special, but as we know, that is only the beginning. Roman wanted something more, something bigger for the club. He wanted Chelsea to be number 1, so it was time for an elite manager to be brought in. Many also believed that Ranieri needed to be sacked due to a lot of poor tactical decisions, and so Chelsea brought in Jose Mourinho as the new manager, as well as the legendary scout who scouted Romario and Ronaldo. The rest was incredible. Under Mourinho, Chelsea went on to secure a domestic double, winning the league title and League Cup in 2005. Chelsea also went on to win the league title the following year in 2006. However, due to some disagreement between Mourinho and Abramovich, Mourinho would later leave the club. That is, for the time being. After this, at the time, Israeli club director Avram Grant was appointed new manager, and success didn't stop. They went on to win an FA Cup in 2007 and another League Cup. And after the conclusion of the 2007-08 season, Chelsea became the highest ranked club under UEFA's 5-year coefficient system, which was a sign of the consistency of the club's performances over the first 5 years of Abramovich's ownership. A few years later, in 2009, Carlo Ancelotti was appointed manager of Chelsea. And fun fact, in their opening match of the season, Chelsea was playing Manchester United and went on to beat them in a penalty shootout, which was their first shootout win since 1998. And for quite a while, Chelsea was playing phenomenal. However, after this, Ancelotti went on to sign a couple players for a large £5 million, which proved not to be what Chelsea needed as they failed to win a trophy. And since at the time the expectations were incredibly high, Ancelotti was dismissed as well. During the years of 2011 till 2013, a couple of managers were appointed, and though none of them were elite, Chelsea proved to have some incredible results. In 2012, Chelsea managed to win the Champions League and the FA Cup, and then in 2013, they won the Europa League, giving them the so-called European treble. By doing that, they became the only British club to have won all 3 of UEFA's major club competitions, until in 2017, somebody else achieved the same feat. At the end of the 2013 season, Mourinho was once again appointed manager of Chelsea. With him being back at the club, he did attract quite a lot of talent, and so Chelsea were able to sign some big names like Willian, Diego Costa, and Matic. However, at the same time, many of the best players at Chelsea left because it is thought that they didn't have the best relationships with Mourinho. So club legends like Ashley Cole, Frank Lampard, and Juan Mata all left the club. As a result of so many top-tier players leaving, they weren't able to achieve too much other than a league title in 2015. However, after that league title in the 2015-16 season, Chelsea just won 5 of their opening 19 games in the next season, which once again resulted in the sacking of Jose Mourinho. Something just wasn't going well for him at the club. Skipping a year after this, and the legendary Antonio Conte was appointed as manager, who led Chelsea to one of their most famous seasons ever. During the 2016-17 season, Chelsea won the Premier League title, as well as setting the record for most wins, winning 30 of the 38 total games in the season. It was truly something incredible. However, after this, Chelsea had some mediocre results, many managers were changed, and nothing major was won. However, the most recent years were probably the most amazing. Throughout the next 4 years, Chelsea were quite the team, with N'Golo Kante, Marcos Alonso, David Luiz, and many other top-class players. They won another league title in 2017 and an FA Cup in 2018. But in my opinion, the real drive and success for the club came when just last year in 2021, Chelsea fired Frank Lampard and brought in the legendary Thomas Tuchel. And well, from there, Chelsea went on to another level. Having an absolutely amazing squad with Mendy, Pulisic, Lukaku, Havertz, just to name a few, Chelsea really became the star team. However, the reason I am making this entire video is because I want to really think about what is next for Chelsea. But will Abramovich be able to sell the club? Will the club be able to pay its players? And will the players' motivation stay for the near future? All of these are questions that no one except time can answer. But one thing I will say is that politics and football shouldn't ever mix.